Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, joined as always by Connor Rogers. Late night Wednesday recording, 10 p.m. Eastern time. We gave the Jets as much time as possible to make as many moves as possible. Today, we really only got one of consequence, a trade that both of us liked a lot for our old friend Morgan Moses, which we'll talk about. We'll also talk about some more of the details on some of the other signings they made, what's available still, and some of the news about the current starting quarterback. CR, late night recording. How you doing? How you feeling?
Good. This is, that kind of week for us because we don't want to get burned. Like the other night, literally uploading the War Room video, and it's like, here's 3 moves. So it's best to just
I still can't believe that happened.
I mean, that was unbelievable. And we should have saw it coming when it was so quiet during the day. And, we knew today with the 4 o'clock official window opening that things could trickle in. We're going to talk a lot about the Moses trade because that was a pleasant surprise. So I think that, and this is a time of free agency. I guess we can call it tier 2, kind of also branching into tier 3 that we've seen Joe Douglas be active in. Although it's interesting, it feels like he makes a lot of the tier 2 and tier 3 signings while wave 1 is going on. Like we're going to talk about Kinlaw, who got $7 million. It's literally double what he was projected to get.
Yeah. We'll save that for the end. We'll leave with some positivity.
Right. We haven't had a positive week at all. It's actually been one of the more negative weeks on Badlands in quite some time. So it's good that the bulk of this show will be positive because they got a damn good right tackle that should have never been able to leave the building, but that's another conversation for another podcast because he's back and he's here and obviously a big part of the Jets' new look offensive line.
Yeah, a guy that was really one of Joe Douglas's best free agent signings, probably
Easily.
outside of DJ Reed, and should have never left. But this is kind of what we've talked about wanting to see more of. Some creativity, going into the trade market, finding a quality starter, a name that not everyone was talking about, a guy who can plug in immediately and be a good right tackle. Durable, size, a mauler. Him and Simpson are going to be able to, move people in the run game without question. It would seem to logic that AVT probably will play guard. I can't say with 100% certainty yet because the fact that Morgan Moses is like definitely a right tackle is like, if you're going to, we know they like Fuaga a lot. And Fuaga is supposed to be a right tackle, unless you're going to play him at guard. And if you're going to play him at guard, then maybe AVT kicks out to tackle. A lot of it depends on what happens. Are they in on Tyron Smith? It doesn't really seem like they are, but he's still out there. Are they just going to go the Bakhtiari Carter Warren route? Are they going to take Fashanu at 10 and he'll be the left tackle? Are they going to take Fontenot and play him at guard or tackle? And is that going to impact how they do it? I do know that you feel very good about right tackle now. We know Morgan Moses can play here. He was good for the Ravens last year. They gave up basically nothing, whatever. It ends up netting out to like a 6th round pick. Fine with the trade compensation. I would say pretty far and away their best move so far this offseason. I put Wario Luigi second because I like upgrading the Tomlinson spot. It's fine. Everything beyond that is okay. I'm happy they got Morstead and Zerline back. No one loves Morstead more than us, but they're minor special teams moves. Tyrod, good backup quarterback. Happy that's done. We'll save the money that they spent on the interior defensive line and how that front 7 is kind of lateral or taking a step back later. But Moses, talk us through what we're getting now. And how do you think the offensive line plays out now? Because the first thing that clicked in my head was all right, AVT will definitely be a guard now, and he'll slot in to that spot. But then you think about who they could end up taking at 10, and I'm like, well, maybe not, because there's really only 2 for sure left tackles you take, and you're either trading up for Joe Alt, which could be on the board, or you're taking Vishanu at 10. Everyone else adds a little variance unless they're going to get Tyron Smith and draft a pass catcher. So how does this impact that?
That's what's really interesting in all of this is trying to figure out how you line up the offensive line. And I think that there might be a world where the Jets aren't sure yet because of the variance in this draft. And that's a good place to start. I mean, just to break it down, Alt has been a left tackle at Notre Dame. Olu Fashanu has been a left tackle at Penn State. Now, I asked Olu when I sat down with him, could you play on the other side? And he's been training for that. So now it's easier said than done. And I'm not saying I'm doubting the guy. I'm just saying it's a really big transition. And usually if you take a guy, you want to maximize the player he is. So it's you really respect that Olu's training to play on the right side if need be, but I also think it would be unfair to him to draft him and throw him on the right side. Now, the Jets are different where he would stay on the left side. Where it's more interesting is where the Jets are picking. It feels likely that the guys that are more of right tackles are in play, but the Jets just got a true right tackle. And that's Fuaga, that's J.C. Latham. Now, Marius Mims from Georgia is different because Mims played right tackle at Georgia. He was only a one-year starter, but he told me that he took 40% of his practice snaps at left tackle. He is one of the most gifted big men I've ever seen. That his long-term home is probably left tackle if you need him to be. He's just so gifted that he could play either side. Fatanu from Washington, who's been a favorite of this podcast, and now everybody's back on that. Well, maybe he probably is a tackle bandwagon after he was written off as a guard for a year, which is crazy. All of a sudden becomes maybe the best fit because Fatanu, his skill set translates really well to guard, that if he needed to play guard, he could do it. He's been a left tackle, so he could play left tackle for you. He's athletic enough that he could probably play on the right side. He's just another AVT chess piece for the Jets. That's why I've kind of been driving that, train to take him at 10 overall, assuming that Alt's gone and that Fashanu's gone. I also am kind of gotten to the point where I think maybe Fashanu's just not their type, and maybe we'll be surprised, but he's not a mauler. He's not a big run blocker. He's a pass protector, and I don't know if the Jets – we're kind of getting hints here, right? They've added two guys from the Ravens offensive line in Morgan Moses and John Simpson that especially Simpson, they grade out the best really when they're asked to pull and when they're asked to do gap scheme related things, not zone blocking. And number one, I like the approach. I think the Jets should be a more downhill. If you get pullers out in front of Brees, I mean, that is a scary thought. Like there's a lot of exciting aspects there. I think they're a team that you'd love to see them be able to bully teams. So I like the identity change if that's the direction they're going in. I think the easiest way to break down what the most likely plan is, I mean, you tell me, Joe, doesn't it feel like it'd be a surprise if Bakhtiari's not here? Yeah. It feels minus 110 that he's here.
That sounds about right. And I think it'll be after the draft. I think they'll wait and they'll sign him in like May or June. They'll check the knee out. He's good. Right. He's going to be ready to go for training camp. Maybe they're a little more mindful of playing him more than they did with Dwayne Brown last year to avoid the exact same situation.
He's
playing
not the jumbo tackle.
Yeah. And I do feel like they're going to add him. And if it's not him, they'll add another veteran tackle at some point. There's not a lot left out there. You're talking about like Trent Brown. They're not going to get Tyron. You're talking about like Trent Brown and Pete.
Right. And Brown's signing to start. So it's I'm going to guess they're going to sign Bakhtiari at some point. Let's say they signed him 2 weeks after the draft or something. That makes it really easy because a lot of people listening to this are probably like, well, you can't rely on him for anything. And I agree. I completely agree. But if you put the pieces together and go, they're probably going to sign Bakhtiari, well, then you're still probably absolutely drafting a lineman at 10 because now you feel pretty confident in six of your offensive linemen. Say you're expecting nothing from Bakhtiari, but you're going to go into camp thinking, hey, if he's ready to roll, we're going to trot him out there as the starter at left tackle. And I understand you got to get a rookie ready, but second team reps for a rookie is fine. That's not a big deal. So you would go out there and kind of treat Bakhtiari like ride the bus until the wheels fall off. And that could happen in preseason. That could happen in week 2. And then you have a rookie that's ready to step in and play. That's a situation that you actually have some confidence in. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. If you told any of us Sunday, the day before free agency started, that the Jets were going to get John Simpson, Morgan Moses, and eventually David Bakhtiari, you'd be like, okay. Like you wouldn't celebrate, but you also wouldn't be like, oh, they blew it. You would just be a little underwhelmed, but it's fine. Moses is a really good run blocker. He's great against power as a pass protector. He does get beat by outside speed, but he's a middle of the pack right tackle, which is a big deal, by the way. Like, those are not easy to find. I cannot emphasize this enough. Who plays next to Simpson is a big deal. And that's what makes that variable interesting. So, yeah, I would like to see one more signing. You would think it's going to be Bakhtiari. God, it's fast. He's not coming back, but it is fascinating. Becton's out there. Like, there's just, it kind of tells
like
you
a
everything.
1 year. Feels like, 1 year different. Yeah.
Hey, you can get the whole band back together and bring George Fant back.
It's not too late. I mean, look, the Tyron dream is not completely dead. You know, he's still out there. It feels
unlikely, though.
It feels unlikely, but I won't say it's fully dead. It feels very much like Bakhtiari. And there's where everything sits with the offensive line. I still think your odds-on favorite.
6.5 out of 10?
Yeah, 7? It's okay.
It's fine. It's
fine.
Fine.
I like Schweitzer and Warren as your 6th and 7th linemen too. Like,
I think that's
where
underrated.
They should be.
Yeah,
and
I think that's an
pretty good
aspect.
You can live with that.
It depends so let me do it like this for a little bit more optimism. If you took Fatanu at 10, because I think he's logistically the best fit in terms of what you need, I would call the Jets offensive line group a 7.5 out of 10, which is, last year they were probably a 2.5. So that's,
it's a disaster.
They were a disaster. So now if they ended up taking one of the right tackles and it turns into this, like, then they asked Morgan Moses in June to flip over. And like, I don't want anything to do
back
with any
to Tetris.
Let's avoid this at all costs. So they have a chance here to set themselves up to be fine, which is, it's not always easy to be fine in the offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah, and you're also banking that playing with Rodgers makes these guys a little better.
100%.
Like a smarter quarterback is going to get rid of the football quicker. He'll make their life easier. Even if Tyrod has to play for a couple weeks, he could avoid some sacks and move around a little bit, even though I know he has some issues holding on to the ball, but hopefully that's not something we worry about. Moving off offensive line, you look at receiver now, this is still sort of a glaring thing, and why I think a lot of fans are like, man, it'd be nice to like figure out offensive line before the draft because it'd be great to get one of these pass catchers at 10.